On this Sunday night, the Liberal Party elects a new leader. Mark Carney takes the reins and is set to be the next Prime Minister.
I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada.
How Liberals are pinning their hopes on him as the era of Justin Trudeau ends.
I am damn proud of what we've done over these past 10 years.
A new low in U.S.-Ukraine relations, the concessions the U.S. president is demanding beyond rare earth minerals ahead of peace talks in Saudi Arabia. And the Pope misses another Sunday blessing, the Canadian cardinal who stepped in and presided over Mass in St. Peter's Square.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news. The federal Liberal Party has chosen Mark Carney as its next leader at a gathering of party faithful in Ottawa. The former Bank of Canada and Bank of England governor won 85% of the vote, resoundingly defeating longtime MP Chrystia Freeland and MP Karina Gould. Carney will now become Canada's next Prime Minister. He's got the support of the Liberal Party. His next big challenge is to win a federal election.
Canadians want positive leadership that will end division and help us build together. My government will put into action our plan to build a stronger economy, to create new trading relationships with reliable trading partners.
And the question Canadians will quickly want an answer to is when Mark Carney will call an election. David Akin is at the Rogers Centre in Ottawa. David, this result, not a big surprise. Carney won in a landslide. What was his message tonight and how is he setting himself apart from Justin Trudeau?
Well, he is setting himself apart from Justin Trudeau, and he's able to do that because he wasn't at the cabinet table. His opponents will say, well, he was advising Trudeau, but that'll come in the days ahead. Tonight, there was really two people that Carney was speaking at. One was Donald Trump. And in fact, that you could say is the reason that Carney really coasted to this victory, because Liberals believe that Mark Carney was best able to deal with the Trump tariff wars. Carney spoke about the dark days that we are now facing because of America's abrupt switch. And then the other person that Mark Carney spoke to, of course, is Pierre Poilievre. Said that Poilievre is not the man to unite the country that he is. And so that's the kind of lines we're going to hear in the coming days. But Carney also gave a very steady speech. It wasn't the most exciting, most dynamic, very steady speech, and he did sketch out a little bits of policy, including this.
So my government will immediately eliminate the divisive consumer carbon tax on families and farmers and small and medium-sized businesses.
David, the Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been campaigning unofficially for months now. Mark Carney is new on the political scene, as you said. How quickly does he need to make his case to Canadians?
Pretty quick. I mean, we have to have Parliament returning on March the 24th. It's just really 2 weeks away. And there'll be inevitably confidence votes. We don't expect Carney to bring Parliament back. We expect him to call an election and so we'll go to the polls in late April, maybe early May, and that's how he will try to introduce himself to Canadians.
Irish, a practicing Catholic, a father of four. Mark Carney has been selected for Canada's highest office just 8 days shy of his 60th birthday. Born in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, the son of a high school principal, he grew up in Edmonton and launched his campaign at the very arena where he used to play hockey.
Community is one of the main things when I think of Edmonton. My communities, Laurier Heights, the West End, Edmonton.
He's still a fan of both the NHL's Oilers and the CFL's Edmonton Elk. After high school, he earned a scholarship to Harvard University. And from Harvard, it was overseas to England and Oxford University. He got a doctorate. He met and married his wife of almost 30 years, Diana, and was recruited to work for Goldman Sachs in New York, launching his career in high finance. But he quit Wall Street for Canada's Finance Department in 2004 and was then appointed by Stephen Harper as governor of the Bank of Canada. At the time, he was the youngest central bank governor in the G20.
That stimulus is going to have an impact.
And he led Canada's central bank through the 2008-2009 fiscal crisis.
Mark was a godsend, not only to myself, but to others who were playing an important role in responding to the 08-09 recession. He was calm, very rational, and very helpful to me as Ontario's finance minister.
Former colleagues remember he brought a different approach to the job.
He was very open to dialogue. He was not going to exploit the historical hierarchy in the Bank of Canada. I'm the governor, you just listen to me and don't push back. And that leads to a more pleasant working environment, but also leads to better policy discussions.
And in 2013, he became governor of the Bank of England, where he would help UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson navigate Brexit.
The people of the United Kingdom have voted to leave the European Union. Inevitably, there'll be a period of uncertainty and adjustment following this result.
Carney would return to private finance with the international investment firm Brookfield, and he was later named the United Nations Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. Carney had been voicing concerns about income inequality, and he was sounding the alarm on climate change. Of course, to Carney's political opponents, his deep resume, personal wealth, and global connections are liabilities.
That incoming Prime Minister refuses to tell Canadians where his millions of dollars are invested and therefore where his real interests lie.
Nonetheless, his opponents will have to overcome Carney's significant resume, which includes a 2011 award from the Reader's Digest. It was the editor's choice for Most Trusted Canadian.
Now, that most trusted Canadian is going to have to start answering questions very soon about where is he going to run? What riding will he contest? When will the election be? Who's going to be in his cabinet? What will the election campaign look like? Lots of questions, Donna. He meets with his caucus, the Liberal caucus, at 1 p.m. tomorrow in Parliament Hill, and maybe we'll get some answers.
Okay, it's going to happen fast. David Akin in Ottawa. Thanks. Our Ottawa Bureau Chief Mercedes Stephenson has been watching this too. Mercedes, David thinks the call might come early. Is Mark Carney sending signals about when it might happen, when he'll have to face Canadians and political opponents in a campaign?
He actually posted a picture on Instagram with Blue Rodeo the other day, Donna, in which he made a reference to choosing from 5 days in May. 5 days in May, of course, being the lyrics to part of a famous Blue Rodeo song. It's largely expected that he's going to call that within the next couple of weeks. He'll need a few days to meet with his cabinet, decide if he wants the same people there or if he wants to replace some of the cabinet. His camp is indicating none of the major ministers who are dealing with Trump would be replaced. They want to keep stability there, but there might be other changes that he wants to make. And then, of course, you have the official handover. He becomes prime minister. But all the indications I'm hearing from senior Liberals and those around Mark Carney are that he recognizes it's really important to have an election as quickly as possible because he's been elected by the Liberal Party to be their leader, but he hasn't been elected by the Canadian people. He wants a mandate to govern here and a mandate to deal with Donald Trump. And on top of that, why wouldn't you want to choose your own timing for an election, especially the way the polls are favoring Mark Carney now? It's unlikely he would find a better time to go to an election. So I expect that writ will drop within the next couple of weeks.
And Mercedes, former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien gave a speech tonight. He's never one to mince his words. He talked about the guy who all Canadian politicians, no matter their stripe, will have to face, Donald Trump. You had a chance to speak with Chrétien. What's his message?
He really thinks this is a unifying time for Canadians and a time to fight. And he thinks that Mark Carney is the guy to do that. He also didn't shy away from criticizing Donald Trump in his speech. He had a line here that got a lot of applause from people saying, from one old guy to another old guy, no, knock off the nonsense, stop the nonsense. So certainly someone who still can raise a room and resonate. He, of course, will be one of the people Mark Carney likely asks for advice. I asked him why he thinks Mark Carney is the right guy to lead the Liberal Party into the next election, and this is what he told me.
And Mark represents competence, experience, and we have a big fight on our end, but united, people will feel comfortable with him.
And in the polls, Donna, certainly people do feel comfortable with him so far. The question will be what happens in a general election. Mark Carney is certainly a distinguished Canadian with lots of technocratic experience, but sometimes federal politics can be a whole different game. He has not been battle tested on a campaign. Could be beneficial, could be a detraction. We'll have to watch and see, and I think we'll have a chance to see that sooner rather than later.
Okay, Mercedes Stephenson, thank you. We'll have more on the Liberals' new chapter coming up. Plus, Donald Trump's conditional peace. The U.S. president ramps up demands from Ukraine. The U.S. president is said to be demanding Ukraine's president not only sign a deal on giving the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, he wants Volodymyr Zelenskyy to show a change in attitude. Donald Trump has already suspended military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. And going into peace talks this week, he has not demanded any concessions from Russia's president. Candace Cole reports.
Russia's offensive inside Ukraine remains unrelenting. In the Kursk region, a Russian drone hitting a Ukrainian military column as Russia retakes control of villages and claims its forces are close to surrounding thousands of Ukrainian troops following days of missile strikes that killed civilians. The attacks come after President Trump halted military aid and sharing key intelligence to Ukraine, a decision that has drawn criticism from even Republican lawmakers.
You're not helping anybody during these discussions if you do not provide the weapons necessary for Ukraine to defend themselves. You're not helping end the war if you deny intelligence to Ukraine.
Halting intelligence with Ukraine could leave the U.S. in the dark about other potential security threats.
Frankly, I think it's going to be an impetus to other allies to start stepping up their own capabilities and questioning themselves about the virtues of sharing with the United States.
Trump's decision to end weapons and intelligence sharing with Ukraine came after that disastrous Oval Office meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy has since said he regrets the exchange and remains open to making a deal to end Russia's 3-year war with Ukraine. But now Trump says signing that deal for the rare earth minerals alone will not be enough for the U.S. to resume weapons transfers and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. NBC News quoting U.S. officials who say Trump also wants Zelenskyy to consider conceding territory to Russia, new elections, and possibly even resigning as president. Meanwhile, Russia has not been asked to give up anything.
Zelenskyy has stood firm against handing over any Ukrainian land to Vladimir Putin. Next, Zelenskyy will be in Saudi Arabia for talks with the Crown Prince Monday, but he will not be part of the Ukrainian delegation, meeting U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and senior White House officials. Donna?
Candace Cole in Washington, thanks. In Syria, there has been an alarming wave of violence over the past 4 days. Hundreds of people, some holding signs saying yes to coexisting, condemned the clashes in Damascus today. The violence captured in gruesome social media posts is between loyalists of ousted President Bashar al-Assad and the new government of Syria. That new government is led by a former rebel leader who ousted Assad last December and who has vowed to unite Syria's many different religious communities. Israel says it is cutting off electricity to Gaza. It has already blocked aid getting into Gaza. It not only makes the lives of Palestinians more miserable, it puts the ceasefire further into jeopardy. Israel is pressuring Hamas into accepting an extension of the ceasefire's first phase, which would see more Israeli hostages released. Hamas wants to begin negotiations on the second phase, which would see Israeli forces withdraw from Gaza and ensure a permanent end to the war. The Vatican says Pope Francis has shown a slight improvement, though the 88-year-old's condition remains guarded. He was not able to deliver Sunday Mass again today. Canadian Cardinal Michael Chrétien, who is close to Pope Francis, carried it out on his behalf. Chrétien recently spoke with Global News about what the Pope has achieved during his papacy.
He is helping the whole church to live our calling as God's people in a more full and authentic way, in a way that will be of greater service to the church itself and to the world.
Pope Francis has been in the hospital since February 14th. He is being treated for double pneumonia. The Liberals have a new leader ahead. What former MPs Lisa Raitt and Anne McClellan have to say about it. Mark Carney has been chosen as a new Liberal leader and is the Prime Minister designate for Canada. And with me are two former MPs who are very familiar with federal politics. Anne McClellan is a former Liberal MP and Cabinet Minister who served under Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien. Lisa Raitt is a former Conservative MP and Cabinet Minister who served under Stephen Harper. First question to you, Lisa. Mark Carney has never been tested in an election. How much of a rude awakening do you think an election campaign could be for him?
Well, first of all, the pace is incredibly fast. He's going to be hitting the ground running. A politician's work is very different than somebody who is an investment banker or even a governor of the Bank of Canada, because you're dealing with constituents, you're dealing with staff, you're dealing with a campaign. They've got to appoint a ton of candidates across the country. He's got to raise some money. Like, he is hitting the ground running if he's going to start the election process right away. And hearing from Mercedes, it sounds like that's something that they want to do.
And you're one of the rare Liberals who ran successfully a number of times in Alberta. Carney grew up in Edmonton, of course. Do you think he'll likely run there?
Honestly, Donna, I have no idea. I know that that idea has been raised. I would say that Edmonton is not an easy city for a Liberal to win in. And I would suggest that we want to ensure that our new, overwhelmingly new national leader runs in a riding where we don't have to spend a lot of time campaigning for him.
And Lisa, where do you think Mark Carney is most vulnerable to attack from the Conservatives?
I think it's going to be on the economy, Donna, because he has been a primary advisor to Justin Trudeau and his government for the past number of years. Certainly in the past couple of years, he's been there providing advice openly. He's been part of the party, going all across the country, having town halls, talking about the economy. So he's going to wear the baggage from how people feel they're doing right now, which is, I know we're talking about a very nice event for the Liberal family today, and I know it's a great lot of fun, and we've had those ourselves in our party, but the reality is that Canadians are hurting in the economy and they're fearful right now, and they are going to be looking for somebody that they are going to be able to trust to get them out of the situation they're in. So he's gonna have to sell himself to the country that he's not part of the old Justin Trudeau government and that he's got some new plans that are actually going to help the country.
And Anne, just quickly, how worried do you think the Conservatives are about Carney going head-to-head with Pierre Poilievre?
I think they're very worried. And in fact, the economy is Mark Carney's strength. He was governor of the Bank of Canada and helped Stephen Harper through the financial crisis. He was governor of the Bank of England during Brexit. Mark Carney has dealt with has helped build economies in difficult, stressful situations. That is what we are facing right now with Donald Trump and the threat from the South. So actually, I think the Conservatives are worried, and you see it in a lot of the ads they're running, the actions they're taking. They're not quite sure how to take on Mark Carney.
Okay. Anne McClellan and Lisa Raitt, pleasure speaking to both of you. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Next, we reflect on the legacy of outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
As your Prime Minister, I have done my level best each and every single day to help build a country that stays worthy of all Canadians. And although you'll always find me alongside you, cheering along, their future and your future is now in your hands.
That is outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau giving his final address as leader tonight. As the Liberals celebrate new leader Mark Carney, they're also closing the chapter on Trudeau. Eric Sorensen looks back at his time in office and the national crisis that will define how it ended.
Just 2 months ago, Justin Trudeau was leaving not with a bang, but a whimper.
That I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
He'd stayed too long, so unpopular it forced a leadership change for the country. But then,
I would love to see Canada be the 51st state.
Trudeau's final chapter would be brief, but among his most consequential.
We will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake.
Okay, there we go.
Hostility from Canada's closest ally is just one of Trudeau's challenges that few modern prime ministers have faced, from domestic disasters fueled by a worldwide climate crisis to a global pandemic.
This must be a Team Canada effort.
It's been a long political journey.
Justin Trudeau. He was born with a famous name.
He was viewed at first as an unserious young man, that he was not like his father.
Justin Trudeau.
Yet once in politics, it was the son who revived the Liberal Party and led it back to power. Reminiscent of his dad's whirlwind beginning, Trudeau-mania 2.0, a new modern leader who ensured women equal numbers in cabinet for the first time. Why?
Because it's 2015.
But he was a flawed politician, twice admitting to ethics violations, once for accepting vacation gifts, and again for improper interference in a legal case.
I fully accept this report and take responsibility.
After many political ups and downs, the economy and inflation dragged Trudeau under.
We don't need it to be made in Canada.
But in the face of Donald Trump's tariffs, Trudeau surfaced one more time, his political instincts intact.
This is a very dumb thing to do.
And setting the tone for a nation wounded and reeling.
We will not let Canadians down today and long into the future.
And as he left office, thinking about his legacy, his dad came to mind.
A small handful of things that my father was able to do as Prime Minister that continue to have an impact in people's lives.
For Pierre, there was official bilingualism and national unity, and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. For Justin, will it be childcare, the pandemic response, or his fraught relationship with Donald Trump? What history will record is a period in Canada largely shaped by a father and son. While John A. Macdonald served 19 years as Prime Minister and Mackenzie King the longest at 21, Pierre and Justin Trudeau were in the Prime Minister's office nearly 25 years, bookends to a Canadian political era more than half a century long. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
That is Global National for this Sunday. I'm Donna Friesen. We've got some beautiful music as your Canada tonight. The National Ballet of Canada's orchestra played the national anthem this weekend ahead of the ballet's performance of Swan Lake. They don't usually do this, but boy, it struck a chord with the audience. Thanks for watching.